Previously on the Schmoedown Rundown. Miss Movies was up first. She got the 2-pointer. Linda Hamilton and Emilia Clarke both play Sarah Connor in Terminator films. Films important, not to be confused with TV, which would have been, of course, Lena Headey from Game of Thrones. 12-11.
First off, I love that you pronounce Lena Headey correctly. So many people, even diehard Game of Thrones fans, mispronounce that.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stats Janisch. And their co-host, the man of controversy, Mr. Brian the Duke Davids. And finally, your host, Aaron Turner. Let's get ready to Schmoedown.
What's going on, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? It is episode number 58 of the Schmoedown Rundown, the official after show for the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. My name is Aaron. I am your host as always. Joining me today, Statman Frank Janisch. He's on time. What's up, Frank?
What's going on, guys? I've had a kind of a hectic week, so I'm looking forward to a nice, relaxing conversation about Schmoedown, as always.
Yeah, never forget. Also joining me today, Mr. Brian Davids. What's up, pal?
Aaron, how prophetic are we? Lena Headey indeedy. What a lovely day.
Also join us for the first time, co-host of DC Movie News, all-around great guy, Mike, now known as KO, Kalinowski.
Yes. Thank you for having me, guys. How are we doing tonight?
Doing great, man. Doing very, very well, as I'm sure you are as well, sir.
I'm doing good. Can't complain. It's a brisk, like 60 degrees here in LA, so it's beautiful weather.
No complaints here either in Florida, though there is a plane that landed on the interstate.
I mean, I grew up in Florida. I lived my whole life there. Where in Florida are you?
I'm in Orlando, the city beautiful.
I lived in Orlando for 10 years.
Brothers, and we didn't even know it. Well, big things going on here with Mike. We're going to talk at length about your match with Brienne Chandler. But first things first, Mike, I got to get this out of the way first. We had a nickname change. I know I'm kind of jumping the gun here. Normally known as The Killer.
Right, yep.
And then we kind of switched to KO, which I think, and I will give credit where credit is due, I believe Linus Babcock may have suggested the KO nickname.
Hang on a second, guys. I planted that flag on this show around the same time that he did, so I think the judges should review this because I was very much in favor of this.
I would defer to you guys on that one. I don't know when it would happen, but I saw it pop up. I think it was on Twitter, actually. Someone reached out to me, and I know Linus had said it to me once on Twitter. So he might have heard it from you guys. So I don't know where that – I'll leave that up to you guys. It wasn't so much – KO Kalinowski was you can't spell Kalinowski with KO without KO. I didn't want to get cocky in my matches yet, but then Christian, the commission got a hold of it. Now it's kind of changed. I started out with Killer Kalinowski, and you guys know, storylines always change and characters kind of change. And I remember coming in and Christian kind of wanted me to be this kind of anti-hero in the league. That's what I was for my first couple matches, and then it wasn't around the time until like the Inner Geekdom where kind of like the hero thing kind of came out, and the Schmoedown League had so many heels and bad guys in it, and I kind of came a face, and it just went that way. And seeing all the interactions, people were talking about being a nice guy, but it didn't fit with the Killer name that I had. So I think it was just kind of a nice transition.
Was Killer an homage to a family member that had the same nickname?
Yeah, I think people are getting confused. My father, that was his nickname when he played hockey.
Okay.
Killer Kalinowski. Some people think it was my grandfather who was a boxer. I like that story. If we want to keep that my grandfather was the boxer, my dad was the hockey player. But yeah, my dad in his early days of hockey was Killer Kalinowski. I think he played college level hockey.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when you create a character, though, you don't know how the nickname's going to work out. But as we got to know you throughout the course of your career so far, I think KO is definitely the right fit. So I love the rebranding.
It does now, though, for me, sets a bar kind of high because now I have to kind of try and knock out every single person I go out against. I'm going to put TKOs in there as well because they are a form of a knockout.
It's all inclusive. It's all inclusive, like a trip to the Caribbean.
Yeah, we'll stick, and hopefully I can make the name, make you guys proud
Or an all-inclusive trip to that plastic city, Orlando.
How dare you?
That it is. There it is.
Stacey Augman Highway.
I guess we'll just have to go to the judges on the KO, whoever came up with it. We'll go to the judges on that. All right, well, let's get into some Schmoedown news. We talked last week about the Star Wars Fatal 5-Way that's going to happen. The winner will get a shot at Ken Knapsack at the Schmoedown Spectacular here in a couple months. We have a replacement in order. Shayna O'Neill, better known as Geek Girl Diva, will be joining the Fatal 5-Way, replacing
Jason Ward of Making Star Wars.
Thank you for that save. Brian, why don't you tell me a little bit about Shayna?
Shayna does a bunch of things. I know she writes for StarWars.com. She's got a pretty substantial Twitter following, social media following. She's known for her Star Wars knowledge, so I think it's a good fit. I know Christian put in a lot of time to find the right female competitor for this, considering we've got Sam, we've got Steele, we've got Alex Explained, and we've got Scrimshaw. So it's nice to have, at least one woman in the mix, and I think they got the right choice.
Frank, you're a Star Wars guy. What do you think of this move?
To be honest, as a Star Wars guy, I don't know anything about her, and I'm looking forward to learning about her through this 5-way for the Star Wars title, or at least a 5-way at least, and how she holds up against people that I do know about, like Sam Witwer and Jessica Crimshaw. So I'm looking forward to it, and another female in the mix is always a good thing when you're talking about inner geekdom categories or Star Wars categories. So I'm looking forward to it, especially, yes.
Mike, compound question here. Do you have any gaps in Star Wars trivia, and what do you think of this move here?
I think it's a great move because I know in Christian, he's reached out to me and all the other competitors like, hey, do you guys know any girls that are great in trivia? Because a lot of the times on Twitter and in the Facebook page, everyone's, trying to champion women, and they make it sound like Christian doesn't want girls, but it's quite the opposite. He has tried to get women in this league. I know there's a point for a while, people are like, oh, what if they start like a girls-only trivia section? And that was kind of insulting to the women that have competed against the guys because they're just as good as us, if not better. My Inner Geekdom debut, it was 2 guys against 3 girls, and it seems like the geekier knowledge, that seems to have more women into it. But, you find your Emma Fifes, your Rachel Cushings that come out of nowhere and just dominate. So I'm excited. I do not know who this girl is, so I'm excited. A lot of these guys with Star Wars, I do not know these guys. So I'm kind of going in blind with this, but I love Star Wars trivia. I kind of feel I haven't been quizzed enough on it, Star Wars. And it's tough because talking to the guys after every match, when sci-fi fantasy comes up a lot, now that there's this Inner Geekdom, a lot of the sci-fi fantasy that was Star Wars is not in the sci-fi fantasy category. When you watch it, I'm sure as the stats can attest, very little Star Wars gets thrown out there during regular matches anymore. Star Wars is great. I love it. I love the trivia. I think I'd excel at that. I think it'd be a strength of mine, but it's very kept more towards the Inner Geekdom now, as opposed to the regular matches where I seem to be doing much more work right now.
I'm just going to bookmark you as future Star Wars Schmoedown contestant.
Please, because I was talking to Christian, he was asking for people, and I wanted to throw my name out there because I would love to be the first 4-way contender. As of right now, it's kind of like me and Rachel Cushing for Inner Geekdom teams and singles. I would love to put myself in that Star Wars group to go for the first competitor to be 4-way. So I'm throwing that out there now. I don't want to get too big for my britches, but I think I can give those guys a run for their money. Although, you guys have seen Sam Witwer. That guy.
Machine.
God, I don't remember when it was. I think it was him and where he did that, where he answered the questions without even hearing the end of the sentence.
Yeah, the best.
It was amazing to me.
Horsepower.
Yeah, that guy. Oh, man. And Freddie Prinze Jr., he's no slouch either. He's great.
It's important to commend Shayna, though, because if you know Star Wars and you're a woman and someone approaches you cold and says, hey, do you want to appear on this internet trivia show in a Star Wars competition against Sam Witwer, Joseph Scrimshaw, Alex from Star Wars Explained, and Steele Saunders, that is an intimidating proposition. So I understand why it's so difficult to find women that are willing to compete when you consider how strong the rest of the competition is. So it is important to commend Shayna, Geek Girl Diva, no matter what, because this takes a lot of guts for someone to put themselves out there like that. So to everyone listening, please give her the credit she deserves no matter what happens in the match.
Yeah, and it's so obvious, like with people like Rachel who become superstars in the league. Even Brienne, like I've had success against her, but her fans and the fandom still champion her. So it really doesn't even go matter like if you win or you lose your match. It's just the players kind of really rally behind them. Like Cushing, they're really rallying behind her, especially in the singles now in the tournament. to take it all, and she's got a shot at it because she's great at it. So girls kind of become instant stardom because they hold their own against these guys in it, which would seem a very dominant field per se, but that'd be awesome.
We've talked to Rachel a million times, and she said it best. Really, the toughest step, the most difficult step for her was the very first step on camera into this competition. So as long as we support them getting out there, they have a chance to become stars like Brienne, like Clark, like Rachel.
And it's tough. I can't speak for everyone, but coming on onto those lights, like I come from as an actor background, so that was not I don't want to say difficult, but it's a different animal. But there are people I know who are maybe they're podcast hosts, but it's just audio, and then to be in a live setting where you've got the pressure, you've got the countdown clock. That's a whole other animal on top of your knowledge. I mean, we've seen all of us that think we can handle the pressure, and I have definitely have my moment, which will haunt me forever in that Schmoedown. It's a lot of things that go into it, but that's what makes the stars in the league and why the people love them, like people like Rachel.
No doubt about it. And of course, Sam Witwer is a legit Sith. Just want to.
That guy he's insane. It's crazy.
Well, let's jump to your match this week. You are in the quarterfinals here. You're taking on Miss Movies, Brianne Chandler, for the second time in singles, the third time if you want to count teams as well. So. Right. Quite the rivalry here, and another great video package. We talked about this last week. The one with JTE and Jeff Snyder was off the charts, and this was another great one. But I got to start up top here in the promos with Jay Washington and Brienne, as Brienne starts off saying that Mike will be dismissed, and she starts wiping off a bloody knife. And that got weird. And
Pat Bateman,
and then she kept getting louder. Would be dismissed, and I just wasn't expecting it, and this is where it gets awkward because Mike, we have to talk about you like you're not here. A lot of things going on here. It scared me a little bit because I didn't expect the loud yelling dismiss, so I didn't know what to expect. Frank, tell me what you thought here, Brienne, and her knife therapy, if you will.
This might be my favorite promo she's done. I just like the fact that Jay's talking, she's a little bit there in the background, just sharpening her knives, wiping off the blood, all while intercutting with Kalinowski's promo, and we keep going back to Brienne. You just see her doing something different, getting ready for the match, and just building the anticipation of this match. I found it extremely fun and enjoyable. Just a great kind of juxtaposition as to what Mike, you're representing and what Brienne's representing. I thought it was fantastic.
And shout out to Nick Scarpino's hands for a nice cameo there. Brian, what did you think of this promo here?
Well, everybody knows Christian Bale's my favorite actor. American Psycho is really what introduced me to him, at least, as an adult. So I love what Brienne did with this promo. I love the scream a la Christian Bale, a la Pat Bateman in that film. Mike, you mentioned something, and I love how you do this. You like to make these kind of meta references to the Schmoedown. You like to equate your own matches and moments to other people in the Schmoedown, such as, oh, this is my Bespin, or Brienne has become my Manson Roca. So is this a sign of how invested you are? What do you credit that to?
I don't know. I don't know if it's because I was a fan of the league before I joined it. And I like the man's like Roca is one of my best friends outside of Schmoedown. Like, I've known him for years. We both went to Florida State together. He directed me in a play, back when I was in college. So I saw all those rivalries, and again, stuff like that with the Schmoedown. There are what you hope would be storylines and hope things would go, but kind of things take its off on its own. Like Miss Movies, I really didn't know much about Brienne before Christian said, "Hey, your next match is going to be against her." So I could go back and watch the old matches. I remember we were both there one day, and we introduced ourselves to each other, and it's like, "Oh, you're my next opponent, so let's do a fight pose." And we kind of posed like we were going to get ready to fight. So I really didn't know what to make of it, and then kind of got swept up into it. And it has really kind of taken a life of its own, because the Mance Roca rivalry has kind of subsided to the point where Roca went on to become the outlaw of the champ and one of the greatest heels the league has ever seen, and one of the greatest personalities that the league has ever seen is Roca. I'm still upset to this day that I have not been able to face him. That is a source of contention for me, that I've never been able to face off against him. I don't know how the rivalry kind of took off on its own, but again, I think it played into the fact that she started off as a face, but it was the heel turn for her that really sold the fans, and then my turn to be a face character. I came out, I think it was Inner Geekdom. I started with the Batman, but again, had to use the meta term, my Bespin moment with my Puddin' that for this day haunts me.
And I think that can be described as its own moment. I think that can be the Puddin' moment. I don't think it has to be.
It's so funny. I forgot who I was with today. It might have been, I think it was Mark Andraco. We were hanging out, and he's like, he was either him or Washington. One of these guys is, I want to submit a shirt to the Schmoedown saying, Puddin is the new Bespin. That's what it is now. And she kind of plays up on that, but then it feeds me because I'm a performer as well, and she's a performer, so it's so much fun to be invested in those things. Did
you expect to be this invested when you first debuted? Was it just one match at a time, or were you fully prepared?
No, not at all. I'm prepared to be in it, but I didn't know how it was going to go, because if in my first two matches you saw I had the black suit, the black turtleneck, I was kind of playing up a John Wick killer vibe, but it never really felt me. Like I would love to have come in with the killer persona with the Batman costumes from the get-go. It's the way things happen. You really can't plan, and when things do click, that's when Christian is so smart as a commissioner, and he knows what he's doing, where it's like, this is the way it's got to go.
Did you own these costumes already, or
all that stuff is mine? Oh yeah, those are all mine. Wow. And that's why I was, even before my singles debut against Ashley Robinson, I wanted Inner Geekdom first. That's why I was hoping to make my debut in Inner Geekdom and go from there, because that's where that's more my wheelhouse. But, Christian needed the competitors to start going, and he asked me to start with Ashley, and so I was welcome to it. But again, had no really idea, theming-wise, what I wanted to go with. The rivalry with Miss Movies has really kind of helped formulate what we're doing, and it took off from there. So I was just happy to embrace it.
Mike, I got to ask you this. Now, in terms of promos, one of your stablemates, if you will, is Johnny LaQuasto.
Yes.
A guy that is well-versed in the wrestling business.
Oh, yes.
Does he ever, kind of give you any ideas on promos or anything like that, or is this all you?
He's got his own thing. Like, every time Christian asks him, I'll see him, we'll be at DC Movie News getting ready to tape our show over there, and I'll see him with these 2-page long that he's writing out promos and what to say. That guy he loves that stuff, the wrestling stuff. I kind of leave it up to him and Christian to do their thing, and I kind of show up. But depending on who I'm fighting, like the last match against Makuga, I couldn't bring anything Batman into it because it really wouldn't play to that. But he's just such a good guy. That's why I did the whole thing of bringing him a beer. It's getting tough sometimes with songs that you want to come out to and costumes. I think I'm saving the costume stuff for the Inner Geekdom or Miss Movies whenever we're going to be against each other. It seems like my team stuff, Adam, is kind of taking the more kind of crazy route, and I'm the more subdued. My character stuff it's kind of all over the place. So I've been trying to streamline and find what works. But it seems like, and again, going up the storylines, all these, I remember, I can't remember where it was. I was online looking up finger pointing, and I saw a clip of Liam Neeson doing this kissing, then pointing at the camera. And I just took that and ran with it, and I loved it. Now it's turning into this finger point with the smile that I do. That is, and also it really gets people pissed off at me when I do that.
It's like a Mentos commercial.
Oh God, yes. And there's this whole group. I think it started with the Action Army, those guys over there, and there's this whole big thing on heel watch on me alone. That they think I'm a heel in disguise, and I'm going to turn because I do like to rib people and cause some crap with people. So now, and then the big, always smiling and just trying to be everyone's, always kissing babies, and that's just kind of taking a life of its own. So I think I'm going to try and just go with that and see how that works out.
If there's heel watch, I'm face watch, because I'm convinced that you are one of the few authentic faces in this league.
Thank you, because everyone is it's all the belts. That's their podcast, and it's called Heel Watch, and it's a segment on me on what I've done in the week to be a heel. And I love to be active on social media. I love Twitter. I love the Facebook group pages. And I like to comment, because everyone's got their favorites. And if I do a ding at another competitor, it's not that I'm, a heel. It's just I use Batman as a reference. Batman's a good guy, but he will play, he'll play dirty. But at the end of the day, he's still the good guy. So that's kind of what I'm using, and I'm having fun with it. I'm having a blast. Because and there are people out there, I know you guys have talked to them. They think I'm boring. They'll put people to sleep. I know people were warning your listeners that I'll put them to sleep because I'm boring. And then people now are calling me white bread. So vanilla pudding I'm getting now. So there's too many heels out there, and that's what it is. But everyone keeps talking about white bread, and all I keep saying to them is everyone keeps choking on this white bread because I keep beating them. So, we'll see how it goes.
But with Merle and Riley exiting the league for now, they were two of the biggest faces. So you're kind of the heir apparent as far as I'm concerned. And real quick, before we move on, I just want to say, I think your ultimate gimmick for your face persona is the fact that you are giving gifts to people before your matches, be it the Coors Light, be it the flowers, be it Puddin'. So I think that is your ultimate face gimmick, and it's one of the first real face gimmicks that we've seen. So I hope you plan to continue it.
Now that is something, because I didn't even think about it. But now thinking back, I was like, yeah, flowers. I brought beer, Puddin', and I didn't think about that. Now I could use that. So that is fantastic. Who knows a year or two down the line what's going to happen with me and where my path will take me. But right now, there is no heel turn that's coming. And again, like you said, it's great. Murrow and Riley, they were the ultimate faces, those guys.
Well, let's move on. Let's talk about some entrance action here. Miss Movie's coming out with the bracket breaker. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And even a choreographed dance addition there. She always brings it in the entrance department. She's drinking bracket tears. Another nice touch. And then, Mike, you come out. You changed it up a bit. You went with the 007 theme, drinking a martini. Good stuff there.
Well, the reason for that was, and again, people can see it as me being a heel. My last singles match against Miss Movie, she lost on a James Bond question. It was who was Major Boothroyd in the Bond series, which was Q. And then we went through that whole debacle, which I'm still kind of burned about, that Christian put Bond in Inner Geekdom, which I was 100% for. But it's his reasons, and it's he's the commissioner, so they took it out. I kind of wanted to play up that a little bit. That, James Bond, hey, it was the thing she lost to against me, so I'm going to play it up.
Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I've compared you myself. I'm the wrestling guy here on the show. I've compared you to John Cena. John Cena is the consummate WWE babyface. He's been a face for 14 years, and he's a 16-time world champion. So just saying, not a bad idea.
I'll take the John Cena comparison, absolutely.
Well, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's talk about round one. Brienne got 5 out of 8 for 5 points. Mike, you got 6 out of 8 for 6 points. So we're at 6-5 here at the end of one. Apparently, Mike is a gremlin. That's something that Brienne wrote down. There was a challenge regarding the make of a John Wick car. A little bit of controversy there, as actually it was just the wrong answer across the board, which nobody should have got points, but I digress.
In the film John Wick, what make of Ford car was stolen from John at the beginning of the film? And we will go to Brianne first. Kalinowski.
Kalinowski.
Give us your answer.
Mustang?
It
Correct.
is a
Remaining
Ford
perfect.
Mustang. Brianne, did you
I
have
said
Mustang?
a Shelby.
No. That is a type of Mustang.
It's the model. Mine is more specific.
It is specific, and I believe we can accept that answer.
I'll accept it.
And I'm going to challenge his answer because we need the actual model.
It's a Mustang. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. It is a Shelby Mustang, and we will accept both answers for a point apiece. So Kalinowski still perfect, and Chandler trailing just by 2.
Brian, give me your thoughts here on round one.
Well, it's a neck-and-neck round, and universal miss on question 8, the head gremlin. So that's always interesting when those things happen. Antiope, Robin Wright, question 7. I like that the pronunciation was corrected, but really the big point, or the big question 5, the Mustang and John Wick. It's actually a 1969 Ford Mustang Mach 1, and the question asked for the make, even though the question revealed the make by saying, what is the make of the Ford Mustang, when it meant the model. The make is Ford itself. So much like that McQueenie JTE Japan question, when JTE gave a Japanese city, he's automatically right because he knows that Japan is the country of origin. So in this case, if you give a Ford model instead of saying Ford make, you're automatically right. That being said, the question was still written incorrectly, but as long as you give a Ford model, you are still correct. So everybody should have gotten the point. I wouldn't have thrown out the question. They still got the points as they should have.
Brianne has gone online and people have talked about, like, the question was such a sticking point for her because her husband is a car guy. Like, I went to her house to do her podcast, and in the garage looked like a mechanic's place. It was all car torn apart with parts of her. I'm not a car guy. And I think a lot of times with these questions, like with Chris that writes them, I think the general consensus, you knew what he wanted. He wanted Mustang, I think. Like, it was the fact that we both got it right or if we both got it wrong. But if one got it right and one got it wrong, that would have been the contentious point to either challenge or would have been a problem if we threw it out. Since we both put the same thing, it's a tough one. But,
if one of you gave the answer of Corvette is not made by Ford. So therefore, I would argue that person would not get a point. But as long as you named any Ford model, Ford being the make, you're correct given the fact that the question was misworded.
What was the other one? What did I put? Spike, and it was Stripe.
Right.
This is a common error. I gotta be honest with you.
I picture that mohawk on him. I'm surprised I even got that close with that one. That was a kind of like, oh shit, this movie, I haven't seen that one in 20 years. Well, he's got a mohawk. Okay, Spike.
I'm a huge fan of that film. I love it dearly, and I make that mistake probably half the time.
Yeah.
Spike and Stripe. It just doesn't. Spike rolls off the tongue better than Stripe, I think.
Yeah. And I have to tell you guys, ever since, gosh, when was it back? I think it was my team match against 6 Degrees when I had that perfect round. And I never thought about it before that, but now that I've hit that, now it bugs me whenever I miss a question in round 1 and I can't get another perfect round. I don't know if it was lightning at a bottle that one time, but now it irks me. Before that, I could have cared less, didn't think about it. I just played the game. But now I have to get out of my head, because if I lose one, then, I start playing mind games and I start second guessing myself. So I need to stop doing that. That is a problem I know I have now in the league. So it's something I got to keep watch on.
Well, this lends credence to something that we talked with last week about Rachel. We talked about when you're getting close to that 8-point round, that, perfect round, it kind of starts to feel like the perfect game. Like you get to that 7th inning, that 8th inning.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, okay, I could really do it. So now the pressure's on. So that's just it just lends credence to what she said last week. It's a sticking point for me in that episode.
But it's tough. You've got to, because there have been times I've played this game or I've seen it played where you could have a crap first round and okay second round, but then you'd win by the end. You're never out. You're never out of this game till it is over. So you can't let a bad first round get to you.
True enough.
Frank, any thoughts about round 1 before we get to round 2?
Yeah, I thought this was a real interesting round. Mike starts off pretty hot, getting the first 5 questions right, kind of tapered off there, getting the last 3 questions correct. Whereas Brienne, she started off pretty sluggish, just getting 1 of the first 3 right, but then finishes pretty strong here to keep it within a 1-point match. So I thought it was a very interesting round, kind of starting hot, finishing cold for either player. So it was a lot of fun to watch. And that John Wick question, I thought it was handled pretty fairly. So I'm glad it ended up the way that it did.
Good stuff. Let's go to round 2, where Mike, you were up first, and you spun. How about it? Spy movies. 3 of 4 for 5 points, and no steals on Brienne's side. So it was 11-5 for you, Mike, at the turn. What did you think here?
Well, I don't know about how you guys feel, because you guys probably could answer this much better than I do. And I know there's all these different theories about it's better to spin first, spin second. I will always, if I have the option, spin first. I know I probably might be giving some tips away to people that might compete against me in the future, but I like to have a nice solid lead. I don't want to play coming up from behind. But that just speaks to me as a competitor. Beforehand, they will always show us the wheel. And you'll see it. It's over there. It's not like they make a thing. We can look at it if we want to, just to kind of give an idea. And there's always, you'll always have one of your strengths on there and one of your weaknesses. And I know they wanted to put James Bond on there as a strength for me, but they have not made the Bond slice yet.
Okay.
So they put spy movie. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Mission Impossible be in there, Bond. So I didn't get that right away, if I remember correctly. I think I respun. And I don't remember what I spun the first time.
Robin Williams was your first spin.
Yeah, and then thinking about thinking someone like Robin Williams, you look at that, and his filmography is so diverse, but also you have to remember, it's not just his movies he starred in. He's done so many little bit roles in films.
Right.
That The Doctor in 9 Months with Hugh Grant.
So comedy and drama. He's very diverse.
That is so damn vast. Against Makuga, pick Nolan movies. I mean, he's only had 8 or 9 films.
Yeah.
So that's a better category. But with Robin Williams, there's no way I was going to take that one. And I got lucky with spy movies. Didn't do as good as I'd hoped I would. That one question about, was it 3 Days of the Condor, who directed it?
Sidney Pollack.
Yeah, that was I didn't know that one. I couldn't even get the multiple choice. And I had to go to the multiple choice on the Bond Oscar question. But I was pretty confident. I think it was Goldfinger. I think I got that right.
The Clive Owen poll was very impressive, though. That helped you out tremendously, obviously.
That's because I love that movie. And I remember his character, it was the professor, and then there was...
Oscar Isaac was one of those short-term villains in that franchise. So there's a lot of those well-known guys that played villains.
It was a great win. It was a great point for me to get that. So I thought I would have done better, but I was happy with the results going into it.
Frank, what did you think here of round 2?
Yeah, I thought after the fact, Mike, in your post-match, how you rationalized why you spun away from Robin Williams, I thought that was a great point. He is absolutely a diverse actor and has done many different kinds of films.
Yeah.
And so when you said that, I was like, well, that actually makes a lot of sense. I wasn't thinking that at the time, but when you said in your post-match, I said, that's a good move on your part. And Spy, yeah, you did pretty well, all things considered. Going multiple choice just a couple times, and you weren't burned on that last question where Brienne could have stolen. So it turned out to be a fairly good round, all things considered.
That wheel, I've never had it in my favor, like finally, like Spinner's Choice, comic book movies. I've not gotten the love of the wheel yet, but I've never been screwed over by the wheel.
Well, Brienne was up. She spun Opponent's Choice, and Mike, you gave her comic book movies. Very generous, or not so much for you here. 3 of 4 for 4 points, and Mike did add a 1-point steal with the time gem in Doctor Strange. So it is 12-9, Mike, at the end of round 2. Frank, what are your thoughts here at the end?
When Brienne got Opponents, you could kind of see the wind taken out of her sails, further compounded by the fact that she couldn't capitalize on multiple choice in the first question, which Mike stole. So that kind of, you could tell, kind of hurt her. But then she did rebound very nicely, answering the next 3, gaining 4 points to keep herself within 3 points going into the final round. So there was a smidge of hope, because you never know what can happen in that final round.
Now, Mike was just talking about how he likes to spin first, and it's personal preference. I understand the arguments on both sides, but based on the last 2 weeks, spinning first has been the right strategy, because the second person to go has spun Opponent's Choice. Literally, each person to go second has gotten Opponent's Choice, from Brienne to Stacy to Snyder to Roca this week. So going first has been the right strategy in the past 2 weeks. It's really remarkable how it's played out this way. But for whatever reason, Chandler just cannot get a break when it comes to singles matches. She's had some of the worst luck I've ever seen. And it's kind of a shame, given what we know about after the match. We'll talk about that later. But it's just a shame that this match had to come down to such an unfortunate wheel spin. But reared its ugly head once again, Opponent's Choice. KO, you wisely pick comic book movies.
Yeah. But again, we are there to win. But again, I wanted to be able to steal some points. And there were certain categories on that I could have given her. And she might not have even known, but I would not have known. But I knew comic book movies. If she went multiple choice and missed, I knew I was going to get them. I knew every answer that I was hoping she wasn't going to get or go multiple choice, because I would have been able to. I knew all of her questions. I knew the answers to. And that's not to sound cocky, but that's my category.
I mean, these were some difficult comic book questions. I mean,
yeah.
You can guess the type of Infinity Stone in Doctor Strange, but the fact that they're asking for a type of Infinity Stone is pretty extreme. However, Doctor Strange had a lot of time manipulation, so Time Stone is a guessable answer. Superman 2 or Superman Returns, Perry White, Frank Langella, not the most popular Superman film, so it's understandable why she had to go to multiple choice. Gina Carano in Deadpool, that was the one that she had a handle on. Recent movie, popular film. Tom Hayden Church in Spider-Man 3. This is something that really bummed me out as far as her going to multiple choice. He was on a hot streak at the time, thanks to Sideways, so I'm surprised she had to go down to 1 point for that. But a 4-point turn for Brienne out of 8 available points. It could have been a lot worse, but compared to other times where this category has been pulled, this was a relatively brutal selection of questions.
Yeah, she did great. I mean, except for that first one, I was only able to take 1 point. I was disappointed that I could not have gotten a better lead against her, and she kept getting them right. So I'm like, she knew it. And it's the thing, I do a lot of this, and I know a lot of the competitors do. I watch old matches, and yes, those questions will never be used again, but you can pick certain patterns. And Chris, I hope I'm saying his name, Skalicki, that does the questions.
Skalicki.
He loves Deadpool. That has come up so many times. Like, that's come up. Logan's come up for comic book movies. So he loves those movies. So I know those questions will come up. And there's a Logan question. But that was or Deadpool. That was a fairly, I don't want to say easy, but it was, But then again, on the other hand, you have to look at people's backgrounds. Like, Brienne's a mom with 2 kids. Deadpool's not really the movie that she's going to buy to have at the house. That's why I know if animated was on there, I would never give her animated or family films, because she would dominate. And it's just, it's kind of like that category that new releases. Some people love it, like I do. Other people hate it because they don't get to go out to the movies, and they catch movies when it's on, Netflix or Redbox. So that's not a strong category for them. So you also have to think of who the person you're playing against is and kind of use those weaknesses against them.
But Mike, to your point, one of the best things you can do is to watch every Schmoedown match, because
absolutely,
questions won't be copied and pasted from previous matches, but there are a lot of questions that are reused, only worded differently or in verse. So plus you get kind of a clue as to what Chris likes to pull from. There's a lot of movies that he likes to pull from. So
absolutely,
one of the best things you can do, because you can't reasonably watch every film that's ever been made. So one of the best things you can do, though, is watch the Schmoedown. You'll pick up a lot of knowledge, and as well as the kind of films that Chris likes, and that's going to help your game as much as anything.
And it kind of goes you down a rabbit hole, because what I'll do is I'll start watching matches. A question will keep popping up, or I'll think of a movie like, I haven't seen the movie in a long time. I'll Wikipedia. I'll just click on, this person directed, so I'll go to the director, and then that director's filmography will open, and then all those movies will be there. So it just kind of spurs things in your mind from just one question on that you're watching on like YouTube. So it's incredibly helpful to watch old matches.
Even the process of elimination, when you are ruling out films, those films come to your mind to where you think about them. Your memory is refreshed. So even wrong answers are helpful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's get into round 3 now. Miss Movies was up first. She got her 2-pointer, which was the Cuba Gooding Jr. film Radio. 12-11, Mike still had the lead. We go to the 3-pointer for Brienne. Sorry about that. George Romero was the director of Creepshow. It remains 12-11, Mike Kalinowski. So it comes down to the 5 Brienne has to hit, and unfortunately she missed Kirk Douglas in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and it was Mike TKO Kalinowski winning 12-11. You will advance to face JTE in the semifinals. Frank, what'd you think of this round here, man?
Ooh, these 3 and 5 pointers are some of the more, I think, difficult questions we've seen in the final round. Not just this tournament, but
that 2-pointer was hard too.
The 2-pointer, I didn't think was terribly difficult, but the 3 and 5 for sure I thought were pretty rough. After she got the 2-pointer, I thought for sure she would at least get one of the 3 or the 5 to send it back to Mike and make things interesting. But it just wasn't meant to be. And I was really hopeful when it was Disney on that 5-pointer. I thought she would have pulled out that question, but it was just a deep cut there with was it 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? What was it? Yeah. I mean, wow, that came out of nowhere. And I guess that was a true 5-pointer, I guess. Yeah, nothing to put your head low about on this one.
Brian, your thoughts here?
Well, I thought the radio pull was very impressive. I think that would be a 3-pointer on most days, but Creepshow, I guess Romero, but still, that's brutal, all things considered. And to get, a classic film as your 5, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea has been questioned or used as a question before, but still, I mean, when you consider Brienne's round 2 and now round 3, just such a brutal stretch of 7 questions. When it came to the communal questions in round 1, she hung tough. It was 6-5 going into round 2, but the next 7 questions, with the exception of Gina Carano, were just brutal for her. So it's really unfortunate that this match had to come down to opponent's choice. It's part of the game, I understand, but I just wanted to see what could have happened had both players gotten a strength of theirs. I always like to see what would have happened based on the knowledge they do have.
Now, Mike, you have the lead here in the 3rd round, and Brienne's having to answer to throw things back to you. You're kind of laying out here. Give me the strategy of kind of laying back and not having to answer. Is it more nerve-wracking when you're waiting, or is it more nerve-wracking when you're ahead?
You don't. For me personally, I didn't realize it until her 5-pointer. When they said it's like, she's got to hit this, and then I thought, wait a minute, I've got 3 more questions to hit. Like, I can still miss my 2 and my 3. I think I only would have had to got my 5 if I'm thinking about the points correctly. Like, I had a nice cushion, but I didn't think about it. But like, I'll tell you, her radio, that I would have never got that. I would have not even got that one. I didn't know the Romero one, but the Ned Land, Kirk Douglas question, I absolutely knew, because for me, classics are not a strong point, and they always seem like Hitchcock or just some 1930s or 40s film. But 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, I grew up on that. That was my favorite ride at Disney World as a kid. I remember I wanted to be Ned Land in my swimming pool as a kid seeing that movie. So that for me, that was not a 5-point question in my mind, but I see in general that it was a 5-point question. But to get that radio question, that was pretty awesome. And here's the thing, like we picked those numbers, and I'm sure there's some opponents that they've got certain numbers they pick. I just randomly pick whatever comes to my mind. I go with. I don't think there's a rhyme or reason to it. But afterwards, I always ask the commissioner, whoever it is at the time, it's Christian or when we get our interim one. I always like to know. They don't tell you the questions you would have got, but they tell you what numbers would have correlated to what categories, something like that. And I would have gotten directors, 2000s, and sci-fi fantasy. So my director 2-point might have got me, but my last 2 I think I would have been okay on. It went the way it went in those numbers. And I've been on the receiving end. Third round can be brutal. It really can, because there's no rhyme or reason to it. Back to what you said about the wheel and the opponent's choice and spinner's choice. I don't know what happened, if it was a change. But before, the person who was favored, you could pick to have them on the wheel. And the last time that I've had that done for me personally was my first match against Brienne. And I think I took them off. I actually prefer that. I think that's to not have them on there. I think that takes luck out of the equation and lets you rely more on your skill.
Yeah, on what you know, not what you don't know.
Right.
And
I've been favored. Like my match against Makuga, I was favored. In this one, and we were not asked. And I've seen a couple matches since then, and I've not seen them asked. So I don't know if that's changed, or maybe it's something we as competitors need to bring up to Christian saying, hey, can we do this rule? So I don't know. I don't have your answer to that, but I do agree with you guys. I think it's better when they're not on there.
I'm not trying to second guess the league, but you would think...
No, not at all.
You would think after all these matches that have been kind of decided or influenced by opponent's choice that they would want to veer away from having opponent's choice on upcoming matches, but they stuck with it, and opponent's choice keeps coming up.
Seeing it with that, I think it makes for better sport that it is in there. It's better because trust me, we're in that audience and we see someone get either their strength, like with team action you've seen before, where they keep getting action adventure. Well, that hasn't always worked out for them. Again, there's heel watch right there on my part. Or you'll see people get opponent's choice just to bury their opponent, and you're just like, man, it does make for better watching. So maybe that's why they've gone against it. I can't answer to that.
Well, I mean, you will be moving on to face JTE, Little Evil, here in the semifinals. And, man, JTE has been on quite the run.
Because I looked him up, and he was, of the past matches I was watching, I really didn't watch much of his stuff because I focused a lot on Brienne, a lot on Josh. But he did not start out strong at all. He was, I think there was the one he played against the swim guy.
Cody Miller.
And the Medals beat him?
Yeah.
What? But now I see him and I watch him and I'm like, holy shit, he's good. That is a credit. That guy, I mean, I think he's up for Player of the Year this year.
Definitely.
Absolutely. He should definitely, it's my money's between him and Rachel Cushing. I think Rachel is a Rookie of the Year, so maybe they will only give that one away. But I think JT, he's got my vote for Player of the Year so far because he's just been on such a tear. And he's great. I mean, who did you guys have it against him and Snyder? Because I did not.
I had JTE.
I had Snyder.
Snyder was my only miss of the tournament so far.
Really? So for me, the fact that McWeeny got out right away, that was a godsend to me. I was like, as long as I don't have to face him, I'm good against anyone on this side. Like, not that I was not worried. Like, I thought Clark would have been great. Snyder would have been tough. JT would have been tough, but to see, I mean, you guys have seen all the upsets that have happened in round one. It's been crazy. So JT, I don't know how I feel. I want to say I'm confident. I'm coming off of 2 really good wins, but I can't underestimate this guy. He's good.
No doubt about it. And like I said, on quite the run. I think right now it's a 2-horse race for Player of the Year between him and Rachel, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't fault them, even though they're the heels and everyone hates them. And, I wish I could talk trash about them, but I just can't. I don't want to underestimate your opponent. But JT, he's kind of the quieter of the two. He just comes out and he does that, like, he does the hand wave. He's like, yeah, keep booming, because I'm going to win in a second here. But it'll be my first time against anyone in the Lions Den. So to see these guys over here, I'm sure they'll get the degenerate Dagnino out there. He'll be barking away, when I have everyone else in the audience against me. So it'll be interesting. It'll be fun to see.
Mike, one of the reasons I consider you an authentic face is because of your behavior at the end of the match. When the match was over, you went over to Brienne and you gave her a genuine hug, and it was a very nice moment. It was a very sweet moment, and she kind of dropped the kayfabe act, of course, and I thought it was a very touching moment right there, and you knew how hard this loss was going to be on her, and I liked how you handled that moment. That is why I will never support any sort of heel watch because of moments like that.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, so going into this, we knew we were going to face each other, but I also know on social media everything that was going on that she was a part of, and she's made this vocal, so this is not like I'm not revealing anything. So that was going into it. And then
to be fair or to be clear, it's way more than just all that though. Like, it's a bigger thing.
So there was that. There's the personal stuff going on. So here we are going into this match, and I go to the guys, commissioner stuff is like, hey, guys, I can't play the way I cannot play this match the way I wanted to, because I was kind of going to toe the line with heel. In our teams match against them, they had those pictures of me and Adam that they tried to break with axes, and they didn't break. Well, I had took it. Mine, I cut it out so it was just a head on a stick, and I was going to bring that up and sit it next to me during my match and bring it up from under the table to stare at her during the match.
Oh, boy.
And I had stuff like that to do, and I was like, I can't do it. It just is being a person. I don't want to do that to another person. Yes, it's funny, but real life happens, and I can't do that. So I had to kind of be the understated person. But at the end there, the match, I came up to her and hugged her, and someone in the Facebook page posted a screenshot of her and I posted that that moment was my most favorite moment, not just in that match, but of my Schmoedown career, of her hugging me, and she looked happy. I started crying, tearing up, because it was kind of like release for me with her. I knew what she was going through. It sucked that I won. I would have liked to seen her win, but I also knew what was going to happen after the match. I knew it was kind of a release for her to be kind of take her time, and it was bittersweet because people have now compared us. They joke we're Batman and Catwoman. You know, and anyone knows those characters, Batman is nothing without Catwoman. I kind of feel that way with her. I hope she's going to take the time she needs. I hope she comes back. Because I feel we've been able to create one of the best rivalries in the Schmoedown, but it's also because we really like each other as people too, and people know that. They know it's. I hope they know it's. They see it, and most people do, and it's a show for everybody. But she's such a great person, and it got to me. It caught me up at the end there.
Yeah, sometimes reality does creep in. Not everything is kayfabe. Not everything is story. Sometimes real life does come through, and in this case, Chandler announced that she's taking a break. She's exhausted mentally and physically, among other things, and she said that she hopes the Misfits will continue on without her. And I speculated last week about that, but that's really not important. And I think it's important right now to commend Brianne Chandler, since she's proved that you can be a star in the Schmoedown whether you win or lose. And our friend Tom from Let's Get Ready to Schmoedown.blog summed up a lot of our thoughts on this already. However, I think it's important to note that while you can succeed, win or lose, there are certain people who aren't satisfied with being just a good entertainer. Tom Dagnino doesn't care if he succeeds at the game as long as he entertains or manages winners. But Brienne didn't get into this to just entertain. She wanted to win. As hard as she worked at entrances or costume preparation, she worked 10 times harder as far as watching movies that she really wasn't interested in. A lot of guy movies that she doesn't care for, she watched. And then when it came to studying various trivia apps, she was all over those. So I can see why she's drained, since she's been going at this pretty hard for a while. There's other stuff going on in her life, but a healthy break never hurt anybody. I just hope everyone in the audience respects this time. Please do not speculate in the comments, because a lot of people think they can speak for her when they really don't know what they're talking about. A lot of people are just jumping to conclusions in the comments, and it's not your place to speak for her. So I just want to make sure we all commend what she's given this league. So thank you, Brianne.
That's the coolest thing I see, is the fact that with her, especially, she's one of the competitors that no matter what happens, whether she loses, like after our match against them with the team match, it was a KO for us, but the fans still love her, and the love for her after this match speaks to her as a performer. She brought the theatrics to it. Her, and I think that outlaw Roca, he kind of started it, then it stopped for a little while there, and then Brienne kind of brought it back. She showed that female competitors are just as tough as and can be just as playful as the male competitors with being heels and stuff. So she's really been a boon for the Schmoedown. It's been a pleasure for me to be the rivalry with her. I love it. You know, we were at LA Comic-Con this past weekend. So we're on the panel and we get there and Christian was like, all right, we're going to open up questions to the floor. We're going to have fans in the audience choose a competitor. You guys will face off. And they picked a couple people and someone against Rachel, and Rachel did extremely well. They went against Roca. He did really well. And then we were down to 4 guys, fans left, and we were out of time. So Christian goes, okay, we're going to do 2 pairs. You guys team up with each other and you can pick a team to go against. And someone did the Patriots, and the Patriots destroyed them. And then the last 2 guys, they go, okay, do they have to be on the same team? And they're like, no. I was like, okay, we want Miss Movies and KO and Kalinowski to go with each other. And everyone went nuts. And I was like, let's do it. And Brianne looks at me and she goes, nope. And I go, what? And she's like, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do what these guys tell me to do. I'm not playing with you. So I had to play a handicap against these 2 guys. I'm not bragging. It ended up 3-0 in my favor. But she just is such a consummate professional. I'm in my head, and every time I'm with her, I'm always like, is she being serious or is this just her acting? I don't know what's going on. Why is she being mean to me? She won't just play with me here in the game for the fans? That's how good she is. You just don't know. And then we did the promo. We did a promo on the floor at the Comic-Con together because she loves it. So I don't think she's going to be gone for very long. And I'm going to try my darndest to turn her from being a heel. I am not going to give up on that, but who knows? We'll see what happens. She's got her personal stuff to take care of. And again, she's my favorite person to go against in the league, in the matches. I'm always in for a treat. I have nothing but love for Brienne.
So, Mike, do you have any idea how good you are at steals in the Schmoedown?
No, I don't. Does it happen often?
Well, it turns out in your singles career, this is just strictly in the singles league. You are actually 8 for 8. That's the best percentage among players who have 6 or more opportunities in the league. So you're right at the top.
Look at that. Oh, that's impressive. Thank you. Thank you. I'll throw that out there now. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, you guys in the stats and are so damn good. And it's so cool to see that, to see everything like that happen.
Yeah, I'm trying to take a page out of baseball where you come up with these really obscure stats. They don't really mean anything, but you know.
So for this and that, but they don't mean
right. Anything. Yeah.
I'm like, hey, great, fantastic.
You know who won a match when it was 70 degrees in Southern California on June 13th? Oh, it was Jay Washington.
The true ESPN of the Schmoedown.
Mike, I know you're having a lot of tourney success right now. And keep in mind, Aaron and I both picked you to go to the finals. So we were believers from the start. But I got to ask you.
Yeah, what?
Is Ben Bateman still in your crosshairs for 2018?
Oh, get out of here with Ben Bateman and Team Action, all those clowns. Come on now. I think this is where the heel watch is coming from. Those 2 jokers, get out of here. What was their last match? What was the last match they played that aired? I'm trying to even think.
They beat Top 10.
Okay. Was that Green Goblin?
Yeah.
Get out of here with that one. I'm sitting there. And yes, I know it's the luck of the draw. I get it. But my God, and the poor acting on Ben's part. What is it? You know, I will say this. When their first 2 matches they won, and they spun action both times, I'm like, nah, it's lucky. It's luck. But then they started not spinning action, and they were really good. So I have to give them the credit. They're really. I've seen them perform. They are great performers too. They bring so much to it. But Ben, I mean, every time you bring up singles to them, they're like, we're focusing on teams. You know, cool guy, here are glasses. I'm like, no, come on, join us, guys. Let's come into the big leagues. You know, play 1-on-1. Don't rely on another person. Let's see what you got. But
I know Ben is going to go hard at singles in 2018, but I think you guys are going to be rivals, at least initially, especially now that Brianne's taking a break. So I think you and Ben are going to go at it in 2018.
I'll show the kid how to play the game. Sure, let him come by himself. And Andrew, if he'd like, he can sit on his back like he normally does and carries him throughout the match.
He'll watch.
Yeah, you can just watch from sitting on Ben's back. No, again, it's like you want. Like people tell me, like, Kalinowski, you got to go heel, got to heel. I was like, I tell people, and I mean this in the most sincere form, they don't want me going heel. Because not that I don't want to say I'll play dirty, and you guys know that certain people you can get to a certain line and not where it's crossing a line, but you know how to hit the right buttons for people, and you like Dagnino can do it so well and plays that line, but you know it's that threading that fine line of like, oh, that's being too mean. And you know how to do that, but you get right up against it, you know, and there are people that do that so well because you love to hate them, like Roca for so long. I kind of don't want to go there, to be honest with you. So that's why people think there's going to be a heel with me. I don't think I'll ever turn heel.
Keep doing what you're doing. Kindness is a weapon. Remember that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm killing people with kindness. I love the fact that I'm be called white bread now. That's the new thing that they call me, white bread. So the day before my match with the movies, I reached out to everyone on the Facebook fan page and I said, hey guys, send me any picture you've got of me doing the finger point smiling at camera. So what I was going to do is I was going to take all those pictures, make a collage out of Photoshop, and I was going to write on the main Facebook page like, hey guys, I am the first Schmoedown competitor to ever be sponsored officially by a company. And I was going to make a white bread company logo with me on there. And then the Miss Movies match happened and I was going to do it. And then I saw the interview and I was like, no, I cannot do that. Heel Mike Kalinowski absolutely could have done that and shown White Bread has a shop and they have T-shirts and jackets. I was going to get a jacket that says Wonder Bread. And this is not me. This is the company. Their logo on the Wonder Bread is classic white. Now I'm kind of like, that doesn't really fly these days.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, but that's on their packaging. But I would have put my face on the back with the Wonder Bread on a jacket. That's Mike going heel, even not caring about what happened post-match. But again, no way. I would not do it. I wasn't going to do it.
To go back to a point that I said earlier, because you've been giving gifts out to people, just give out the gift of white bread in your next match.
I told people on the people on the Facebook page, they're all like, Brienne did the little promo of her choking or eating white bread. And I was like, hey, boys, girls, send me your address. I'll mail you a loaf of white bread so you can choke on it when I beat her.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So I'm having fun with it, towing the line with going heel, but I will not. I'm going to try and be the kill him with kindness, kill him with a smile, kiss some babies, shake a lot of hands.
Well, just real quick, I actually prefer wheat bread, but I do like a good white every once in a while.
Yeah, white's just not good for you anymore. You can't eat it anymore. You gotta get the whole wheat.
I'm going to ask you one question here from Facebook. This comes from Taylor Robinson. I enjoyed this question. Said, what has been your most memorable Schmoedown match to be a spectator of, either in person or watching online?
Oh, man, good question. I try to go to the matches as much as I can because it's right down the block for me in Burbank here. God, to watch Cushing's Inner Geekdom debut was a great one. Her five-way. Roca winning against Merle.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Because if you watch and you pause, Roca didn't think he won. Because the way the Christian does it, he does, and you're winner, and you don't know. Roca almost broke down. And you
those are the more genuine, surprising looks I've seen. Yeah.
He's top of his heel game at that point. And it slipped, and I saw the humble, kind Roca that I know. I'm like, oh, and so it was so genuine to me. So those two right there are the ones that still. I mean, but again, the Whitwer trivia, the Force Brothers trivia, where he was just destroying. To sit in that room sometimes to watch some of those, it's awesome. It's the tension is palpable.
Well, Mike, we appreciate you joining us for this. Tell the people where you can be found online. Where can they find more of your work?
Yeah, guys, absolutely. My Twitter is @MikeKalinowski. That's the best place. I love interacting with people on Twitter. I'm always on it whenever I can be. It's a great time waster, but I love to interact. I host a show called DC Movie News over at the Popcorn Talk Network. We're actually going to be having a really special guest having to do with the Justice League movie this coming week on our next show. Can't talk about it yet, but I'll post on my Twitter. My website, MikeKalinowski.com, if you ever want to check out what's going on acting-wise, that's where that is. And I know there was one question I saw posted that Ron asked me. You guys don't want to bring it up, but I'll bring it up. It's Colgate is what I use to get the teeth.
Good stuff.
Which is just Colgate whitening, just the kind of, plain toothpaste for the plain guy that I am.
Perfect closer. Perfect closer.
Hi, I'm Aaron Turner. You may know me as the host of this fine program, the Schmoedown Rundown. Perhaps you know me from my small cameo in the McG film, We Are Marshall. Either way, I'm glad that you're here and I'm glad that you're listening. I want to tell you about the SK Plus YouTube channel as well as the Schmoes Know iTunes feed. If you're listening or watching via the SK Plus YouTube channel, please give our video a thumbs up and leave us a comment in the section below. Tell us what you thought of the episode. We'd love to hear it. And of course, subscribe to the SK Plus YouTube channel. That way you're up to date on all the newest episodes of all the shows we have. Special welcome to our good friends Ace and RB3 with their new show, The Meaning of. Definitely check it out. Those guys are fantastic. If you're listening via iTunes on the Schmoes Know iTunes feed, please rate and review the feed itself. Give us a good rating. That way we can move up the charts and more people can find this great content. We certainly appreciate your support. And of course, for more Rundown news, follow at SD Rundown and at SD Rundown Stats on Twitter. And now, back to our scheduled program.
All right, guys, we're back from break. We're talking about the second matchup from this week. It was the Outlaw John Rocha versus the Inglorious One, Samm Levine. Quite the grudge match. I was a big fan. We'll just get into the opening promos here. Samm Levine, this is probably my favorite promo I've seen from him, and it might be my favorite of the year. Calvin Klein, get the fuck out of here. Great stuff from Sam. He had me rolling in this pre-match promo. Frank, what did you think, man?
I gotta agree. This might be my favorite promo that Levine has done. He had me laughing through the entire thing, going after Roca for every little thing that he could, and Roca trying to jab back at Levine. This is exactly what you want to see from promos this late in the game in terms of the tournament, and I loved everything about this, and it really did help build the anticipation between these two, even though they'd never met before in a match. We have all this kind of outside influence or outside circumstances, so it really did help build up the hype for this match for me.
Yeah, no doubt about it. A lot of good stuff here from Sam, and then Roca did throw in the straight to DVD jab, which I might want to lay up on that one next time. But Brian, what did you think here of Sam's promo and Roca's turn as well?
Well, as someone who once felt like they were the only one who listened to Sam's free-for-all post-interview, I'm glad it was finally being heard. They really did a nice hype package consisting of all the various interviews, especially that free-for-all post-interview that was really kind of cut intermittently throughout the hype package. But Sam's F you Roca, etc., that was so well done. And, who knew that would come back 7 months later to have such an impact now. And like you, Aaron, I'm kind of confused as to what JSR was going for when it came to criticizing some of the films that Levine has made straight to DVD, when JSR himself has made some straight to DVD films. So I'm not sure what he was ultimately going for there. Sam's had a remarkable career. But pretty good promo.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the entrances. We had some basic stuff from Samm Levine. He comes out to the Ferris Bueller theme, and we had Jason Inman coming out with Roca here. Inman wearing a mask and trying to keep Lucille for himself before Roca asked for it back. Anything stick out to you here, Frank, in these intros?
Pretty standard from Sam, but I will echo Christian's sentiments, as it was kind of bizarre with Roca and a masked Inman.
It got weird.
It was a little. I was towards the end of it. I think it went on a little too long. I could have dealt with it for like a little bit, but I think it lingered a little too much, and I was like, I don't know what's really going on here. But nonetheless, it just added to the absurdity of this match.
I'm gonna bookmark Inman and his white mask. Maybe there's an outlaw cult coming somewhere down the train. I'm gonna bookmark that for now. Brian, what'd you think? Anything stick out to you here?
Well, the Inman mask thing was strange because Jason made such a big deal that he would come out and support JSR if he lost to JSR, and yet by doing that, he didn't have to wear the mask. The mask is actually something that people have to wear if they assist in an entrance and they don't want to, I guess, cross boundaries into other teams or stables. So we've seen before, like Real Rejects will help the Misfits with their entrance, but they will wear masks, and that is to kind of keep the boundaries established when it comes to different competitors. So the fact that Jason made a point to say he'd support Roca, I'm not sure why he had to wear the mask in this entrance. It seemed unnecessary. I still do not like that Kid Rock song. There's a lot of people that are Not too happy with it considering his previous music, but the Negan bat seemed a little too much if you ask me. I'm not sure JSR needs another accessory at this point when he's already got so many accessories, but it is what it is.
We all wear masks, metaphorically speaking.
Sure.
Well, nicely done.
Yeah, come on, that's a great line.
Nicely done. And as far as Kid Rock goes, as the great referee Mills Lane would say, I'll allow it. Well, let's get into round one, where it was Sam going 4 of 8 for 4 points, Roca going 6 of 8 for 6 points. Guys, I have a decent bit of notes for each round breakdown, and I just have one note for this, and that's question 6, O'Doyle rules.
Oh, man.
Come on, man. Frank, come on. What in the world?
Come on. Ugh. Is there really anything else we need to talk about besides this? Because this just blew my mind. And the fact that, come on, guys.
The thing about it is, I'm going to give Sam a pass, and this is why. Because he said, I prefer Happy Gilmore to Billy Madison. And there is a contingent of people that do prefer that film.
But
that's
come
fine,
on.
But still.
It means
like
you would have to have seen Billy Madison to know you like Happy Gilmore more.
Yeah,
and O'Doyle rules is a significant quote in that movie.
And it's not even that film. It's even more. But anyway, it's used throughout multiple Sandler films. But my goodness. Brian, what'd you think here, man?
Everybody liked both Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore. Those were his two best comedies. So, but regardless, this is part of an overall pattern, or part of an overall trend. Last Action Hero, Home Alone, Billy Madison, Back to the Future, Rookie of the Year, Heavyweights, the list goes on. These are comedies or family comedies from 1985 to 1995 that have proven to be a glaring weakness for JSR. And when he misses a Billy Madison question, that tells me that he still hasn't addressed this hole in his game, like a missed movies in Bond or Samm Levine in animation. I know Bail Outlaw fans are already racing to the comments to turn this point into something that it's not, but these are just the facts. I said this weakness needed to be addressed as of his win against Merle. Those who truly want to be Mount Schmoedown figures, they address their weaknesses whether they win or lose. So I'm very surprised, given all these examples of questions that he's missed in this same genre, that he hasn't gone out of his way to fix it. And moving to question 7 real quick, The Beast in Jabba's Palace, Roca wrote something that matches up with a later question. He added a G to Rancor when it's just Rancor. He wrote Rangkor when the answer is, again, Rancor without the G. So Harloff gave this to him. He gave him a break on this. There's a little bit of leeway here.
I thought that was fine.
Again, based on what happened later in the match where an L completely changed the answer, this fits the same argument, the same logic. So the fact that he added a G, you could easily understand why they would reject this answer, but they gave it to him. So all I'm doing here is establishing that JSR got a little bit of a break here. An argument could have been made that this should not have been allowed since he added a G. So I'm just simply bookmarking this for later discussion.
Let's go ahead and jump to round 2, where Samm Levine was up first, and he spun comedy, stuck with it, went 3 of 4, got 6 points. Roca did add a 1-point steal. The Price is Right. So it's 10-7 Sam after his turn.
The Price is Wrong, Bob.
It's actually not quite the line, but
what is the line?
It's
Price is Wrong, bitch. But Frank, what did you think of Sam after his turn here?
Yeah, when he spun comedy, I was like, yeah, you got to take it. And he did pretty well, although he did falter on that last question. So all things considered, not too bad. I think he could have had a perfect round here, but it is what it is. And you can't scoff at 6 points out of 8. And then later on, he would eventually kind of rectify that situation by getting a 2-point steal, but we'll get there.
Absolutely. Brian, what'd you think here?
A fabulous round from Samm Levine. Frank, when JSR has the lead, you're certain that he defers when he has the lead in singles, correct?
Every single time, yes.
Okay. Well, this, as I mentioned earlier, those who spun first had the advantage these last 2 weeks, as those who spun second suffered the kiss of death, opponent's choice, as we'll talk about in a second. But unbelievable round for the most part for Sam. Rowan Atkinson, I love the use of the Josh McCouga's JTE rule in that place, because you could tell it was on his mind. It was on the tip of his tongue. He needed just a little bit more time. Pulled it out right there. The Best in Show, the dog show question he got. What about Bob? One of the best comedies ever made. Dr. Leo Marvin kicked things off. So solid round from Samm. The 1 point steal from JSR, though, kept things interesting. And that Jack and Jill game show question, I guess it makes sense given Sandler's apparent affinity for The Price is Right based on that Happy Gilmore quote that I just butchered. But I guess it makes sense that Price is Right would pop up in another Sandler film, Jack and Jill.
Let's go to Roca's turn, where he spun the dreaded opponent's choice. And for the second time this week, it is comic book movies. He went 3 of 4. He did get 5 points out of the round, but Samm did add a 2 point steal, which we're going to talk about. Lena Headey plays Mama in Dread.
Who plays the drug lord simply known as Mama in Dread?
Lena Headey. Lena Headey. Lena Headey from Game of Thrones. Lena Headey. Yeah.
What's your final answer?
Lena Headey from Game of Thrones.
Headey? It's incorrect.
That is incorrect.
Lena Headey is not her name.
It's Lena Headey.
Is that what for the steal?
Oh, it's Lena Headey.
Headey is correct. Headey
I
is
forgot
correct.
I could steal.
Headley.
Excuse me.
My
name is Samm Levine, not Samm Levine.
You can challenge it.
Letters make a difference.
You can challenge it. You can challenge it.
John,
do you want? John, do you want to challenge it?
Don't challenge? Yeah,
do you want to challenge it? All right, John Rocha is going to challenge. John Rocha is going to challenge that. And here we go. All right, we're coming back. We have had a full panel here discussing this in length, and we're going to award Samm Levine the steal. John Rocha said Headley. Headley. Right. He might have known who the actress was. He said Headley, very similar to what JTE said when he said Kelly McGinless in their match against Trek, and he did not get the point. So he said Headley. Might have known the actress. He said Headley. That is a different. Headley would have been acceptable. Headley was not.
And it's a 2 point steal for Samm, correct?
That is a 2 point steal for Headley and Headey. Very different names.
All
okay,
right.
So it is a 12-12 tie going into the third. A lot of debate here. At least in the game, about the Lena Headey question. Headley, whatever. Frank, what was your takeaway here, man?
This 2 point steal from Samm, 2 points that Rocha should have had, because we all know that he knew the answer. He just could not pronounce it correctly. And this is an absolute brutal misstep by Rocha. There's no way to get around it, because this ultimately did lose him the match. If he gets these 2 points, he wins the match on his 3 point question in the final round. But I do appreciate the fact that they handled this properly. I do feel like the right decision was made in awarding Samm the opportunity to steal and thus getting the 2 points. Going back to the Rancor situation in the first round, he spelled it, I feel like, phonetically as you would say it. It's difficult to hear in the movie how C-3PO says it, Rancor, the Rancor. So I could see how he spelled it that way, but he did say it correctly. In this instance, he did not say it correctly, nor do I think he spelled it correctly, if I remember correctly. So
you didn't have to spell it correctly in this case. It was
in either case, he was wrong in pronunciation and spelling. So around, what I'm saying is all around, he was just flat out wrong. So I understand the ruling here, and I do not disagree with it at all. I think it was the right call. As we heard John in his post-match, he agreed. So aside from that, these were 2 spectacular rounds by both of these players, and had John, gotten that second question correct, he goes 4 for 4 for 7 points. That is a huge, huge deal here in this kind of match, but it just didn't turn out that way due to the fact he couldn't properly pronounce Lena Headey. So this moment is probably worse than his Bestman moment, because he blanked on the Bestman moment. This one, he knew. He just couldn't get it correct the way it needed to be.
Interesting. Brian, what was your takeaway, man?
The thing is, though, he did not have to pronounce Headey correctly to get the point. He could have mispronounced it as Heady, because the mispronunciation aligns with the spelling of the last name. So we saw this with Stacey Howard. She said Jack Huston, even though it's pronounced Houston, but the way that she mispronounced it, it aligns with the spelling of Houston's last name, which is just Huston. So had he stuck with Lena Headey, he would have gotten the point. The problem is he second-guessed himself, even though he initially said Lena Headey. He second-guessed himself. He added the L. And when you add an L, when you add a letter that has no business being in there, that's where it was no longer just a matter of pronunciation. It was a whole different name. So Lena Headey, she's not Chase Headley's sister. The mispronunciation of Headey as Heady, as I just said, would have worked since the mispronunciation corresponds with the phonetic spelling. All of that case with Stacy. But my God, the fact that a recent exchange of ours ended up taking place on the show a few weeks later is just remarkable. We played the clip up top, but keep in mind he got a break on the Rancor question when he added the letter G. Because he added the letter L, he got it wrong. They could have said, because you added G, you got it wrong. It's not as extreme as the L, I realize. It's a bit more subtle, but the same argument could be made, but he got a break. So all you Bail Outlaw Nationers, you cannot ignore that he got a little bit of a break in round one. Fans always want to blame a loss on one moment when there are a series of moments that lost this match, not just one. He could have answered his 5-pointer correctly. He didn't. So don't just blame Lena Headey for him losing this match. There were a number of things that went for him and against him that ultimately decided this match. So had he said Heady, had he stuck with Heady, he would have gotten the point, but Headley or Headley, entirely different name, a la the Kelly McGinnis, which is actually Kelly McGillis, precedent.
Anybody else chuckle as the rest of the match Christian still pronounced it the wrong way? Because I laughed the entire time.
Yeah, they were all over the board on that one.
I love that.
Yeah, he gave the correct last name as the incorrect last name. You know, we knew what he meant, but a couple more points is I cannot understand for the life of me why Sam gave JSR comic book movies. I know JSR missed the Judy Greer and Ant-Man question, but you cannot give a guy like JSR this category when you consider that Hellboy question he pretended not to know against Mark Riley at last year's Spectacular. But regardless, Sam getting opponent's choice for Roca in this case, this is another example of his free-for-all karma coming back to life, so I love to see that. Just a fascinating round that we'll be talking about for a very long time.
Let's go ahead and get into round 3. Sam was up first. He got his 2-pointer. Chris Christopherson played Whistler in Blade. Love Blade, one of my favorites. So we go over to Roca. He got his 2-pointer. Barbra Streisand starred in both Funny Girl and Funny Lady. We are tied at 14. Over to Sam, he could not get the 3-pointer. Larry the Cable Guy is the voice of Mater in the Cars franchise. So we're remaining at 14. Roca got his 3-pointer. So the Sylvester Stallone film Daylight. So Roca took a 17-14 lead, which put a lot of pressure on Sam. He had to hit this to stay in the game. And my word, another great Samm Levine pull. Got the 5-pointer. Gerard Depardieu. And Levine has taken a 19-17 lead, in turn, putting all of the pressure on John Rocha. And he could not pull the director of the most recent Phantom of the Opera with Gerard Butler, Joel Schumacher. So Samm Levine has defeated John Rocha 19-17. He will move on to face Rachel the Crusher Cushing in the semifinals. The year of Levine continues. Frank, what'd you think, man?
Yeah, this was a fascinating final round between both players. You didn't really know how it was going to go. You know, Roca answers his first 2 correct. You're like, well, he's probably going to pull it out in the end. But then Levine gets a huge pull with the 5-pointer. And then John Rocha gets musicals. And then you're just like, oh, boy, well, there that goes. Man, just a fascinating match all the way through. I think it lived up to my expectations, what this match could be. And I would love to see a rematch between these two because I think these two players are very evenly matched. And Levine had a little bit more of the luck on his side, I think, in this match, getting an opponent's choice and getting the opportunity to steal that question that he did. So just a hell of a match all the way around.
Yeah, good stuff. Good chess match here in the 3rd round. Brian, what are your thoughts here at the end of round 3?
People are not giving Samm Levine enough credit because these round 3 questions were very hard and he managed to pull 2 tough ones out. Chris Christopherson in Blade that's a 2-point question for some reason. Even though he's a distant third billing in Blade, he's not on the poster, he's not shown in the trailer, nor is his name said. It's not a surface level detail, and for a 2-point question, typically it's a surface level detail in a lot of cases. Not every case, a lot of them, but his 3-pointer was an absurd voice question. Those are always difficult in these animated films, and I know Sam has made a point that he's working on his animated skills of late, and this is one of the reasons why. But his Gerard Depardieu pull was just big-time Schmoedown play, and he earned this win. He earned this win. This was not Roca losing or failing. This was Sam earning this win fair and square. Roca had his chances. He got some breaks, whether you want to acknowledge them or not, but Sam pulled this out with some incredibly tough questions in round 3. He got 2 out of 3 of them. This is Samm Levine's night, not Roca's loss.
Let's go ahead and move on to the post-match, where we had Ben Bateman from Team Action show up, did a run-in on Sam, talking about the team tournament finals, and Sam didn't really know who Ben was. I thought it was pretty fun. And then we had Roca on the other side, trying not to get down after this loss, but you could tell it affected him. So, Frank, what were your takeaways from the interviews here?
When Ben came and talked to Levine, I thought this was the first time we had seen Ben get kind of stifled by another player that he's going after in a post-match interview. I thought Levine did a really good job of disarming Ben. Ben didn't have a whole lot to go at him. Levine didn't really play up to what Ben was going for, and it was very clever what Levine did. Bateman was searching, and I felt grasping at certain points during that to try and get the edge over him, but Levine wasn't having any of it, so I'm very much looking forward to these promos between Above the Line and Team Action. Should be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I kind of almost forgot about the team final. No offense. It's just I've been inundated with singles now, so I kind of forgot about it, but thank you for the reminder there, and of course Ben Bateman coming in hot, as always. Brian, did you have any takeaways here for these post-match interviews?
As I've said before, I love that the singles tournament kind of learned from the team tournament by not having people crash matches, because that telegraphed future rounds. And in this case, it's just hyping the team tourney final. So there's nothing to telegraph in this case. But Ben Bateman always drops a few vulgar lines that kind of sound like he's gone too far, yet they're still quite funny. In this case, hey, look who it is. It's the S that McQueenie took. So very good line. Very disgusting, very vulgar, but it's classic Bateman in a nutshell. And he then said, I've never come across a Samm Levine movie, which, again, I don't understand all the shots at Sam's acting career when he's a working actor. He's the most successful actor in the league by far. And I know Kalinowski's a working actor too, but Sam, if he wanted to shame people in this league for their past acting endeavors, it'd be no contest. But he doesn't do that. He's a great guy. The I don't know your name line, I literally don't know your name line, good stuff. And Ben had to get out of there as quickly as possible. He dropped the where's the belt line and just left. I did think it was kind of strange that there was no question about Rachel. Hey, what do you think of your upcoming match with Rachel? But they got distracted by Ben, fair enough. And as far as JSR, he did acknowledge that Christian's clarification question threw him off. He said heady at first, but then when Christian said, is that your final answer? He second-guessed himself. I understand why that happened. I would probably second-guess myself too, but I think the writing is on the wall here. Roca needs to ride the singles pine for a while. I still think that the team contender match at Spectacular should be a precursor to a number 1 contender match against MODOK, given their controversial sudden death loss to the Patriots, but a break in singles is the best thing that could ever happen to a 7-5 JSR. I think he needs to work on his game, especially those family comedies in the 85 to 95 range, and then return as potentially the original character and, not trying to have his cake and eat it too. So if he were to set up a Bibbs match at Spectacular, if Christian were, it would certainly add views to the event. I would love to watch it, but if JSR ended up losing that match, he'd be 7-6, which is near Josh McCouga territory. And I think the character is too important to the league to risk further damage this season as far as his reputation, as far as his legacy. So he said he wants Action to lose against Above the Line. He wants to play them at Spectacular. I get that, but maybe hold off in singles. And Robert Greenwald was the actual director of Xanadu, not Gene Kelly. So JSR was so out of it that even his post-match smack was wrong. And Christian then stood by the Lena Headey decision, and I agree with him. The Rancor question, as I said, could have been thrown in there too. They gave him that break, but I just don't understand how when you have Kelly McGinnis as a precedent, when it's actually Kelly McGillis, this is consistent with past rulings. So you guys, you got to put your fandom aside and realize precedent is established. The right call was made. I'm still in shock that we happened to address Lena Headey's pronunciation 3 weeks ago. Before I forget, I know I've gone a bit long as far as the post-interviews go, but my favorite moment of the post-interview, when JSR was out there, Emma said, "John Rocha, you must have the most opponent's choices against you in the Schmoedown." And then a few minutes later, during Frank's stat segment, Frank says, "This is actually the first opponent's choice that John Rocha has spun in his singles career." So, priceless moment. Priceless moment.
I got another nugget too, because maybe they were thinking, oh, maybe teams. Actually, no. They've only spun opponent's choice once in teams as well. So I'm not sure where that came from. Maybe trying to make them feel better. I can understand that. But facts are the facts, folks.
I would like to quote Josh Tapia, false news. Well, at the end of this match, there was a little bit of post-credits, I guess, post-match stinger action going on as Christian and company revealed the interim commissioner that will be filling in for the next little bit while Christian is gone. And I was thinking it. Tom Dagnino came out, and I was like, yes, finally, Tom is going to take over this league, and he's going to clean it up. But it was not to be. As we were introduced to the new commissioner, which ends up being Thad. I actually like this call. I think you needed someone that was outside of the kayfabe world. We know that he's competed before with deep cuts with himself and Aaron. They were in the team tournament. But I like the idea. Thad knows more about this game than probably anybody. I like the call. Frank, what about you, man?
I like it too, actually. But for a hot second, I thought he might actually name John Rocha interim commissioner due to his loss just now. But I was like, also, that'd be a little weird because it would be like you would know that he was going to lose and all different kind of things come into play then. But I was like, but just for a hot second, I thought about it. That would have been fun. It would have really stirred up the league, I think, especially for the Lions then. That would have been phenomenal. But I do like Thad, rather, teammate of Aaron from Deep Cuts. But I do like Thad as the interim commissioner. I liked his little disciplinary action against Jay Washington and Tom Dagnino, making a manager's box. That's a great suggestion. I love that already, what he's doing for the league. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this will play out for the next week or two or three, however long it goes.
Typical baseball guy making a manager's box. Brian, what did you think here of the announcement of Thad being our new interim commissioner?
Well, I didn't buy that the Dagnino smokescreen was a thing because we've seen that move so many times from Christian. He loves the fake out. But I actually love the Thad choice. The Curb Your Enthusiasm theme music, that is perhaps one of the most brilliant needle drops if you think about it. If you think about how brilliant that is, the meta message that sent, the subtext to that choice is so brilliant. So I commend whoever came up with that idea. But I like it. He knows the game. He's been in a dark room with Aaron Wilhelm, cutting these matches left and right. And Christian really only had one interview question when he was interviewing prospects. The question was, do you hate Tom Dagnino? and clearly Thad does not like Tom Dagnino, so he was hired on the spot. But great choice. The needle drop was just brilliant. Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Well, let's go ahead and update our brackets, which, of course, mine is just in shambles. I went 1 of 3 on the week. Mike Kalinowski's the only hope I have left, as I have him winning the whole thing. And I also have him over JTE next week as far as that goes, and Rachel over Sam. Frankie, how you looking, man?
Yeah, so I was right on the Levine-Roca match. I had that matchup going. I did not have Kalinowski advancing to the semifinals. I had Clark Wolf initially, but I did pick Brienne over Kalinowski, which did not happen. So, but I did have JT in the semifinal and Rachel Cushing in the semifinal. So, I am actually rooting now for JTE to win this whole damn thing.
Oh, interesting stuff. Brian, how's your bracket looking? Who you got for next week?
I'm currently sitting at 11-1 as JTE, the first player I ever endorsed on this channel, just so happens to be my one misstep along the way. I'm still sticking with my original picks of Kalinowski and Cushing, with Cushing to win it all, but I'm happy either way. If Samm goes on to win, I'm happy. If JTE goes on to win, I'm happy. And don't snooze quite yet on Samm Levine being player of the year. There's a distinct possibility he could end the year with both team and singles belts. JTE could as well, but Samm could as well, and it would be the most sneaky route to getting it done when you consider what happened at Free For All, when you consider that he didn't get the Roca Riley winner. He had to go on to face Merle. The fact that he's now in this position challenging for a belt for the second time in the same calendar year is pretty amazing. So don't snooze on Samm Levine quite yet.
I think of the final four that are left, and this is, I'm not saying this because Mike was a guest on our show, but I think these are the four people that are in the lead for player of the year. Like, Mike kind of on the outside periphery, but he still could have a shot at Inner Geekdom and being in the singles championship. But, the other three really are kind of ahead of the class right now. Right now, JT is my header, and then I would have Rachel, then Samm, then Mike. But a case could be made for all four, and that's good stuff.
See, I would have JTE number one. I would have Christian number two, because if he beats JTE, then he's won 6 in a row, five in a row this year. But yeah, I like Rachel's odds, and yeah, you're right. I didn't really think about it, but now that you mentioned Samm Levine, yeah, he's got a pretty strong case for player of the year right now.
I got to be honest, and this is going to sound strange, but I forgot Christian was the champion.
Oh, come on!
Completely forgot. Like, sorry, but anyway, because we just see him so often, I don't know, I just forgot. But anyway,
let's go. You see him so often with the belt at the desk, and you forgot.
Maybe it's just it's the belt glare. It just gets to
the glare. Yeah, that's what it is. It's the glare.
That's it. Well, let's go ahead and end the show with a segment we like to call "Who Won the Week."
I won.
Now, originally, I had a fun one. I was going to say that Joel Schumacher won the week because the guy needs a win after Batman and Robin. But I'm going to keep it fun though. I'm going to say that comic book movies won the week because it took down 2 fan favorite competitors. And Thor Ragnarok is looking at $100 million weekend, so I would say comic book movies won this week. What about you, Frank?
I'm going to give it to Samm Levine. I think he had hell of a promo, hell of a match. Even his post-match interview with Ben Bateman, I thought he killed it. So he had a pretty good week, all things considered, everything going around in the tournament.
Brian, who won the week for you, man?
Guys, I want to give this to Opponent's Choice, since it's taken over this tournament, just like it did last week, 2 weeks in a row. The second person to go as far as the order has gotten it each time. But I also want to give it to Lena Headey, given the rundown prophecy of it all. But I've got to give it to Samm Levine Headey, as he's now making his own case for year-end awards. All in all, I'm very happy for Samm.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for Schmoedown Rundown number 58. We'll be back next week. Frank, where can you be found, man?
You can find me on Twitter at FrankieJ29, as well as the Schmoedown post-match stat segment
Schmoedown Breakdown.
Schmoedown Breakdown. There you go. That's the wording.
There used to be a show on Schmo Plus called the Schmoedown Breakdown, so we're bringing it back.
Slowly.
Okay, that was a weird plug.
Yeah, definitely.
Brian Davids, where can you be found, man?
BDF331 on Twitter, filmschlubspodcast.com, and I've got something cool coming up that maybe 3 people will care about in a few weeks.
Oh, awesome. Can't wait to check that out. You can find me on Twitter at ATTitanium, where you can look at pictures for me from our Halloween costume contest, where I'm now the 2-time champion. I'll toot my own horn there. Thank you very much.
By the way, I don't know who that guy is, but my God, that was spot on.
Thank you. I took a page out of my good friend Miss Movie's book and just cosplayed it to the nines. That's what I did. But Frank, real quick, man, you're not going to be here next week. Is that correct?
That is the plan. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for going on assignment. We really, really appreciate it.
You got it.
And let's just keep these outros severely awkward, and we'll catch you guys next week. We'll see.